Welcome, everybody. Happy May the 4th out there. This is a Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, everything, Computer Science for All. I am Darth Hooker. No. Take this off. That's really hard. I'm Mr. Hooker, actually, but let me put this back on because I'm going to invite up our special guest right now. Let's see if he wants to join us on stage. And look who it is. It's Bubba. Boba Fett.
That Welcome. Would be Mando for you.
Otherwise known as Phil Hintz, everybody. Phil, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Wow, you've got everything ready to roll today. I see that there. I love it. The light up sword and everything. The hard thing about this is that when I wear the Darth Vader helmet, I can't wear the headphones as well. So there we go. Now that's better.
That could be a problem.
That could be a problem. Yes. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. This is a Facebook Live, but it's also on YouTube and Twitter. So if you're following along on any of those platforms, you should be able to reply, post questions. We're doing this live. So of course it is live television. Well, not television, live internet. So be careful, but I can choose what I want to show or not show on the comments there. So, but we do encourage you guys to make this highly interactive. We look forward to you joining us for the next 30 minutes as we talk about computer science and also Star Wars, because you know what? We can't not talk about Star Wars on May the 4th. And so my first question for my esteemed guest here, Mr. Hintz, and I already know, Phil and I have known each other. Oh, geez, Phil. What do we think?
About 8 years, maybe? 10, almost 10?
Yeah, 8, maybe almost 10 years. Goes way back. We were actually at an awards presentation together in Atlanta at one point for Tech and Learning. Remember that?
Well, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yep. And the wives and us all had dinner together. It was fun. But I came to know Phil over the years and have discovered that, as a matter of fact, he is a very, very big Star Wars fan. And so my first question for you as my esteemed guest today on this computer science, and we'll get into computer science heavily too, because it does tie in to a lot of Star Wars. But tell the viewers out there, how big of a fan are you really? I mean, and what kind of stories can you share?
Wow. Well, Star Wars came out in 1977. I was 8 years old. And for an 8-year-old boy, when seeing that Star Destroyer come across the screen for the very first time and the big screen, changed my life in a lot of ways. You know, it got me excited. I was already excited about space and being an astronaut and all that stuff, but this got me excited about, technology, I guess, in a lot of ways. Did I know it then? Not really, but it got me excited, and I started collecting. I started collecting all the Kenner figures and ships and things like that. I've got some pretty rare ones myself in my collection right now, and I've been able to meet a lot of folks through the years who are also fans and have collected things, either collected real Star Wars stuff or what I mean by real is in terms of vintage stuff, because Disney's taken it over and has got it, and Hasbro and all that, and they're trying to kind of remake and recreate that fantasy. But one of the things I love the most about being a fan of Star Wars is that after the first trilogy, the original 4, 5, and 6, I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And then all of a sudden 1, 2, and 3 came out. Well, by the time 1, 2, and 3 came out, I was already a father. And so my young daughters were able to come to the openings of 1, 2, and 3, and then my family grew a little bit more.
A lot.
And before you know it, here we are a couple, about 6 years ago, we released 7, 8, and 9, and I'll never forget going to episode 7 with my kids and my whole family, and they were all asking me, "So Dad, what's going to happen?" And I said, "You know what? I've been waiting 40 years to find out what happens next." So that's where I'm at, and I've loved everything about Star Wars. I've got Star Wars Dixie cups. I've got Star Wars lunch boxes still. I got my Burger King glasses still. It just, everything about Star Wars intrigued me, and it's just the depth George Lucas went into creating the fantasy that we know of Star Wars. It just is mind-boggling, and I see, I love seeing it play out even now with The Mandalorian. Today, the Bad Batch came out, and just all the little pieces that we were looking for when we were kids are being revealed on a day-to-day basis. And I'm, there's a good chance I might be able to share this with my grandkids one day. So
Yeah, episodes. Well, I mean, for a while there, Phil, I think you were keeping pace with the episodes with kids, right? You had you needed to get 9 kids to knock out all 9 episodes. You're
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I had a similar experience. I mean, I took my oldest to see everything from Rogue One and all the newer ones too. And she got to see. She's always said, she goes, "Dad, I never seen you cry except for that time that." Spoiler alert, by the way, a main character dies in episode 7 that's been around forever, played by Harrison Ford. But I'm not going to tell you his name. And she looked at me. She's like, "Dad, I think you're crying." I was like, "No, I'm not. It's just I got popcorn in my eyes or something. It's not a yeah. No, but it was good." I told her, I was like, I realized like we grew up with these things, and I agree with you too. I think there's some tie in there when you think about like where we ended up in industry with just technology in general, and kind of like where does this head in terms of computer science? And so before I get into the next question, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, because Rex Academy is sponsoring this for the next 4 episodes you'll see. And they're Phil and I both got to check out their stuff. It's pretty amazing, guys. And actually they just now, I don't know if it was this week or early this week or last week, they started giving it away, like a free trial of any course. You could choose a course, go to rex.academy, and they're actually letting people just like try out their computer courses. What I love about their computer science courses is, unlike when I was a tech director and in the tech world, it was a lot of like installations and stuff to get that one. You remember that big, giant, massive lab, that computer lab that y'all had to be around? Well, of course, right now we can't. So I really was intrigued when they shared with me, they're like, "Oh, check this out." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's what we've needed. Web-based, browser-based, get in there." And it's you don't have to be a comp sci person to do it, which is what I love, because I love computer science, but I'm far from like a coding or Java expert. Right. I don't know if you feel the same way. You've had some background in comp sci too, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I started programming. My first computer was in probably 1983. It was a Timex Sinclair 1000 with 16K of memory. I did say 16K.
Hey. Yeah.
And I learned how to program BASIC back then. I was probably in 7th grade at that time, but I taught myself from the book. There was no computer science curriculum like we have here that can easily guide us and show us exactly what to do next. So.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things, one of the creators of this, the curriculum director, had told us once. He said, he goes, when he was teaching computer science, he was like, "Oh, it was always like, all right, kids, now it's basic, right?" So everyone turned to page 58 in this massive manual and try to figure it out. And it just wasn't anything exciting or intriguing. And going back to the Star Wars part of this, I mean, I really think like you have to figure out a way to draw kids in. I mean, because I hate to say it, but I was doing something with a 5th grade group last year with my daughter's 5th grade class. They do the career day thing, and people come in and they check out. Oh, by the way, got some shout outs here. We got Rochelle, who's total Star Wars fan. Amanda Fox popping in to say hi, Phil. How you doing, Amanda? So I was doing this career day thing, and the person and the counselor was up there talking, and she was like, you could be a veterinarian, yay, firefighter, yay, all this stuff. You could go into computer science, and it was like crickets. and I'm sitting in the back as a dad, and I'm like, "Oh God, what's going to happen?" So I'm kind of lean in to see what they're going to say. And she says, some kid goes, "Miss, what is a computer science? What does that mean?" And I was like, "Oh yes, here we go." And she goes, "Oh, it's like someone who just fixes computers and stuff."
Oh.
And they're all like, "No." And so I am biting my tongue in the back of this classroom, and I finally go, I just like, "I've got to say something here. Is it okay?" And she's like, "All right, here he goes." So I step up and I was like, "Listen, guys, do you like gaming?" And they're like, "Yeah." "Do you like YouTube?" "Yeah." And I'm like, "Do you know how all that stuff exists?" "How?" "On like computer science." Yes. And they're all, and then so I showed them just a few little things, and I was like, become a YouTube star. By the way, that's a course that Rex even offers, is how to become a YouTube star. Awesome. And it's like, and they want to do this stuff, but they don't have any idea like what it takes to build, like even the screen with the graphics that we have here. I mean, that takes work. Yes. So it was interesting to me. And then it's funny. Then I asked her, I go at the end, I go, "Ask the question again." And about half of the kids, including some girls, which made me proud as a father of girls. And you have a lot of girls too. It's like a lot of girls raised their hand. I was like, awesome. So we're starting to try to break through that gender barrier there. Yes. Amanda Fox also says, "May the 4th be with us." Yes, of course.
Always.
And today is May the 4th. What's tomorrow, Phil?
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith or Revenge of the 5th?
You could call it that too.
Yeah. Revenge of the Fifth. That's what happens when you drink too much tequila on Cinco de Mayo. I call it. That's a fifth. Never mind. Well, we are live, folks, so we have it out there. So let's do a quick tie-in. So we talked about Star Wars.
Sure.
How do you think computer science, we talked about how it got us excited, for technology. Is there a tie-in, or is there a way that you could use Star Wars? I mean, could you teach a Star Wars class, or could you use computer science? Is there some idea in your head where you're like, man, you could totally use this, or this to get kids excited about it? Yeah.
You could absolutely teach a class about Star Wars. And, you could start with literature aspect of it. I have a good friend that's exactly what he does, is he incorporates it into his English classes, and he does full units, or probably a full course on Star Wars and the literature aspect of it. But when you think about the computer science aspect, I was thinking about that today, and I said, George Lucas and his great innovation, of creating, and there weren't things that were, as Amanda Fox says, they're droids and robots. There wasn't that until George brought them to life. And the funny thing is Star Wars, it's a galaxy far, far away. A long time ago, a galaxy far, far away. Yet you've got, I'll never forget the first hologram, seeing the hologram of Leia, coming out of R2-D2, and realizing that we're living that right now. I mean, that was something that was created 50 years ago now, right? 50 years ago.
Was it 50 years? Oh my God. 1970. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, Lucasfilm started.
Okay. Thanks. I was like, I'm almost there.
50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. So
wow,
he was already thinking about this stuff 50 years ago. And now that we have virtual reality and augmented reality, that just plays right in. And I don't know if you saw on Google today, if you type in Star Wars and do a search, you're going to see some augmented reality right then and there. Well, that doesn't just happen. That's coded. That's coded to happen. That's created by computer science people, and really people who are just creative. I got to get that word in there. Is the fact that somebody who wants to create something, and I think that's really where the coding starts to come in play. But yeah, if I can give you a little idea of how we started with coding in our school district, my former school district, we started a computer science immersion program because we realized a number of years ago that we were trying to prepare our students, our kindergarten through eighth grade students, for jobs that don't exist. Right. And in essence, that's kind of what George Lucas was doing. He was preparing for movies that didn't exist, so he had to create all that. And so we were trying to prepare our students, and we said, it's computer science and coding. It's a language. And when is the best time to learn a language, a foreign language, a language that isn't your native language? And that is the younger you are. I mean, even learning your native language, you're learning that from day one, right? But the sooner you can learn a second language or a third language, the better. And so we thought that with computer science, so we actually started our computer science initiative in kindergarten.
Wow.
And it was amazing to see these kindergartners when they would typically do kindergarten activity would typically be a about me page. You've got kids, you've probably done that, where they put pictures of themselves and they talk about their favorite dog, favorite animal or favorite food, and they put all that stuff together on a page and they bring it in, and it's show and tell time. But our kids, kindergarten kids, were doing that using Scratch Junior, for example, and doing that on their iPads, and they were animating themselves and telling a little bit about themselves. So that was the other approach we had is depending on what the topic or the subject area was, we said, let's see if we can use coding as a way to show evidence of learning. So, for example, when the kids were learning in second grade, another lesson would be the water cycle. Why not code the water cycle? Not just, you could do a paper on it, you could do a science project on it, you could do a keynote on it, but why not code it as well?
Right.
So
I've seen the augmented reality version of that too with iPads, where people have done that, where they've taken, now the app's it's going to escape me, but there was an app that was used where you could actually drop in like the water cycle and have it like on your desk. You design it in maybe Keynote or something, and then you actually just have it on your desk, and the kids could walk around with their iPads and basically look at it in augmented reality. I think touch on a couple things here, because I think you hit some big points there. And that the first one is creativity and computer science. Do you think, I mean, you mentioned it more than a few times, But I feel like the general, I mean, like I mentioned with that story about the counselor, it's like, oh yeah, you're just fixing computers. Do you feel like that story is really being told out there, that there is a creative element to computer science, or do you feel like it's still not quite out there yet?
I don't think it's out there as much as it should be. I know Rex Academy's got a wonderful program with with learning cybersecurity as well, and that's something that's on everybody's mind. But why not have kids start learning about cybersecurity? I mean, it's just like teaching them banking skills, except now it's cyber banking skills, if you will. So I don't think the creativity aspect is being tapped into as much as it should be. And I think really that's part of the engagement. I think that's what draws kids in, is when they can make something, when they can make something that is above and beyond themselves. It's not just a paper. It's something that, had they not gone through the creative process and gotten the creative juices flowing, it would not exist. So there again, there's George Lucas. He made it exist. He made a droid exist. He made the planet that you have in the background right now. He made that exist, and he put it together because it didn't exist out there. And so I think we need to encourage kids to think outside the box, right? But be able to, really create the things that they are dreaming about, that they're wishing they had, and I think computer science is a way to do that. We are hearing stories all the time of kids who have created certain apps. A friend of ours, right, Mr. Bello, his kids.
Oh yeah.
Because there was a need for Disney. I'll give him a plug. There was a need for finding exciting journeys and paths while you're at Disney World, and his kids created that. Took the pandemic time, and created that because they found a need, and they said, I want to dream that into reality, and they did. So
I think that's important to think about too, when you think about, well, when you were talking about like even cybersecurity, which isn't admittedly like necessarily the most sexiest topic, but let me tell you this: if you went to a kid and said, listen, what if I could teach you how to hack something, once they say that, they're like, wait, what can I do? Like, yeah, I mean, I want to be Ferris Bueller from War Games, or I want to go in and actually Ferris Bueller was not in War Games. That was Matthew Broderick, who was in both War Games and Ferris Bueller. And in both cases, I believe he hacked a computer to change grades. Yeah. But it's interesting how you could have kids kind of lean into that, and I know that there's some worry too that like should we be teaching them that as well? As Amanda mentions in there, the coding as a language. I love that you started kindergarten, because I've yet to see, there's a big push here in Texas, at least. I don't know if it's happening in Illinois too, but for this dual language idea, right? And it goes based on what you were just saying, that kids' brains are a little more neuroplastic. They can change and mold quicker to language at an earlier age. So you immerse them in dual language. So they're doing Spanish half the day and English half the day. Right. And I think that's interesting. But also I think, how could you take advantage of that with coding, like you were saying? So man, if they're ready to learn it, why not just immerse them in it, right? At that point. And not every kid admittedly is going to be a coder or programmer.
Right. That's something we stressed also, and think about teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week. We got to give a shout out to all our teachers. We had to teach our teachers how to code if they were going to teach their own students how to code. So they learned, and I think that was a really cool aspect of it as well, as while the kindergartner was learning how to code, the teacher was learning right there with them. And it was neat for the kindergartner to be able to see their teacher in learning mode, not just teaching mode, and so in many cases our students ended up teaching their teachers, and showing them new things through the process. And I think that collaborative process and growing and learning together is probably the ultimate way of modeling lifelong learning.
Yeah, and I think this is funny. I tie into language here that Rochelle shares, that she just found out there's a Wookiee translator today, which would also I'll have to look that one up, Rochelle. If you can, if you want to send the link on, we could post it in here. But I'll have to look that one up. Speaking of learning another language, you could speak, Wookiee or is it, or what do they speak? Kashyyyk? I think that's the planet they're from. But I don't know exactly what their language is called. I probably should know that. I think it is Wookiee. I think you speak Wookiee, I think is what you're speaking. So a lot of other things here, I'll get back to this too, because I think you were talking about how when kids create stuff, they can use I think what's happened in education, and especially during the pandemic, and especially actually this is already happening before pandemic, but more often than not now, and I love Google to death, but Google Slides has become like the one thing that every teacher gloms onto is like, I'm going to have every kid make a Google slideshow about this and a Google slideshow about that. And I'm going to share all my stuff on Google Slides, and it's all going to be Google Slides. And I think that's okay for a base level of learning. But I think when you're talking about the things you were talking about, like how great would it be to show alternate ways to actually demonstrate their understanding, and the power of coding, or using a program like Scratch, or using a program like, what's the one? CoSpaces. Have you ever used that?
CoSpaces, that's for the virtual reality aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The ability to
reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's alternate virtual. We're all virtual now. I mean, in some cases, but
well, the other term is MR, right? Mixed reality.
Oh yeah,
everything, right?
So how many more letters can we fit in the in the acronyms of educational circles? Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to thank, first of all, we're still got a few more things to get through, but as Amanda says, yes, amazing. It's what kids built scenes with. Oh yeah, using CoSpaces. Yeah, Amanda's, by the way, talk about VR, AR. Amanda Fox, if you guys don't know her or follow her, she's got a lot of great resources around it, and a fellow zombie lover. So I'm gonna give her a shout out for that. But it's amazing some of the things that the kids can build in augmented and virtual and mixed realities. So I think we need to continue to think about that and what the role of computer science plays in it. So going back to this kind of base question of computer science, what do you think? And this is kind of we're going to do this series over the next, I'm going to do 3 more episodes of this, just kind of tackling, this is going to be kind of one of the big questions. And I think this is a question that probably takes more than the 8 minutes we have left to unpack, but give me some ideas. Like, what are your thoughts? I have my ideas, but I want to hear yours. What are your ideas? Like, what are the barriers that people are having? Like, why are they not implementing computer science? And why is it that we're turning out such a low number of kids, graduates in the computer science programs, and we're having to, bring them in from other countries, which is great to diversify. But we're woefully falling behind in terms of turning out those computer science graduates. What do you think? What would you list as some of the barriers, just out of curiosity? And then the audience, those of you that are watching as well, if you want to throw some into the comments as well.
Well, I think encouragement, for one, is lacking. Some states, and Illinois, I think, just adopted it, and that is requiring computer science now at the high school level. And in my opinion, as we've already mentioned, I think that's a little too late. At least it's something, but we really need to be, when you talk about the barriers, people really understanding what is computer science. It goes back to that question that you were talking about with the teacher day and everything. It's like people don't know what it is, and we need more examples of that. And I think sites like code.org are making awareness, bringing awareness to it. But the more we can get celebrities, even celebrity coders out there.
Yeah.
Elon Musk coming out there, and he's doing SpaceX, but I'm sure
new Austin resident Elon Musk. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's advertising, it's getting the word out there, it's getting the awareness out there. But in terms of barriers, it's we're not educating our teachers at the college level either about computer science and the value of it, other than that's an elective or that's a pathway for only a certain kind of student. You know what? The idea of computational thought process and teaching kids how to think computationally versus typical thought processes. I would just say we're not doing that enough. We're not showing the value of that and how it helps in other subject areas. And you mentioned already, we're not going to have not every kid's going to be a coder at Apple,
sure.
But every kid, if they can learn how to go through the iterations of computer thought or computational thought processes, I really think that aspect of it really changes their mind. We actually saw an opportunity. When we did our initiative with the computer science immersion program with kindergartners, and we did it in first grade and second grade. We actually did it at the elementary level for the first year. Then we expanded it through fifth grade. Literally 6 months after we started that initiative, kids took their MAP test, NWA MAP test.
Yep,
and
we have those here.
We literally saw kids approaching that exam, that test, in a whole different way. They were taking more time, which was amazing, to see that. And if you were to ask the kid, what were you doing? Why were you taking more time? And were you, what was the process? What were you thinking? The student would say, basically, I'm debugging the question. because
that's awesome.
they learn that in their vocabulary and as part of the computer science immersion program. And so, the more we can do that with students and get them to start using other parts of their brains, and I think that's where the creative aspect comes in, where you're using both sides of your brain, all sides of your brain, your entire brain, at approaching any problem in life, problem solving and any type of curriculum. I think that's what we need to be able to encourage, but we need to teach the teachers and the upcoming teachers that are in the college level, because I've got a daughter that just graduated, and she's going to be hopefully a 5th grade teacher here pretty soon because she's been student teaching. But did she get any computer science training in the last 4 years of her educational process and learning to become a teacher? No, but we need to get that going at the university level.
Yeah, I think that's where there's some deficits, and there always have been, admittedly, with the connection of K-12 to higher ed. But what's interesting is there's a lot of folks in higher ed. I was just talking to a group. We've got a photo bomber in the background there. Is that Josh?
That is Josh.
Hey, Josh. Or Josh Vader.
Maybe, yeah. All right, Josh.
As we get into
the whole family gets into it. What can I say? I
love it. No, you got it. That's all right. They're just coming out of the woodworks. No, this is what's great about Facebook Live, by the way, is you can just have it happen. It's all good. It's natural. Was I talking about? I was talking to someone, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and there's a group of folks that was talking about the fact that they're actually starting to cut some courses because there's just not the interest level. And it's interesting, like they're not able to create. I mean, and you know how colleges are. If they don't have the interest, they're not going to put the course out there because they need to make money too. Yeah. Amanda said we missed a timing there, by the way. We should have cued the Imperial March when Josh walked by. So I think that's part of it. And I think it's interesting that they aren't a part of these conversations too. I do think the more that we can get kids excited about it, the more they're going to want to take those courses, obviously, and continue on in college. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where we have to figure out how to strike that balance. Another
thing that we brought in was the concept, and one of my good friends, and he became our STEM coordinator at district, is the concept of maker fairs and being able to have students showcase their work, whether it's coding or something in the STEM area. The more that's shown off, and other kids say, "Wow, I think I can do that," or "I can do better than that," or something. So they build upon each other's work, and the more we can showcase students' work in those areas, will also bring more students together.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think that's, there's other barriers that we'll get into, especially when we start talking about the areas of equity, which I think is that's going to be a whole nother episode that we're going to definitely bring about in the next couple of weeks, because I think there are certain areas of the country, computer science tends to lean itself toward higher socioeconomics status, because they're able to put them in the camps, the coding camps. Maybe they're able to pay for that. So we'll tackle those as we go along. But before I sign off for today, I want to just say a couple of quick things. Again, shout out to our sponsors, Rex Academy. They are giving away a free computer science course. You can sign up right now. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. I'm going to try to share my screen here. They actually have, if you go to their website, let me see, share. Oh, look at that. That is working a little bit. This is awesome. I was just kind of scrolling through some of their stuff. They've got, you were talking about starting in kindergarten, and I think that's important. There's all Kodu and mobile app development, and think about that in third grader. Wow. I would love to give that to my third grader who's wanting to build an app right now. Yeah. And so maybe I'll sign up and just do that as my course. I'll say, hey, I'll try this as a course. Just thinking about all the different things that they have offering and kind of the scaffolding of it. But what I love about this, again, there's this free trial button right here, and right now they're giving it away. So they're sponsoring this event, which I appreciate them for sponsoring, but I also, just because they're sponsored, that's not why I'm showing this. I'm showing this because I believe this is where we need to go with this kind of model to get it in more schools and more kids, have more kids have access to it. So web-based, mobile-friendly, excitement, the stuff that we talked about with Star Wars, how do we draw them in? I think that's a big part of it. So go check out Rex Academy, rex.academy, click on that start free trial. Phil, as always, it's been fun, my man. We've got a couple other quick things we're going to pop up real fast before we sign off. Brian Miller jumps in and says there's actually great examples of colleges doing it right now. Oh, University of Texas, right down the road. Yeah. The We Teach CS. Yes, that is a great program. I agree. And Brian, I've seen that program in action. 100% agree. So there are some colleges that are figuring this out and hopefully not abandoning it completely. I think that's a part of it too. And Shannon, who's up in your neck of the woods there, mentions
Hey, Shannon.
If students who are interested in CS, unfortunately, are not going to school to be a teacher, thus the cycle continues. Oh, I get you. Yeah. So that's another big barrier. And I think that's something else. Again, not to just blatantly plug Rex Academy, but I will say that the other thing that turned me on to what they were doing is that you don't have to be a computer science major to actually teach the course. Because I think it was Amanda who said, teachers are sometimes afraid to let kids drive into those platforms. And so a lot of times schools won't offer a course because they're like, well, we don't have a comp sci teacher or someone who can teach JavaScript. So you need something that's a little more packaged in a box, turnkey ready. And
self-paced a little bit, right?
Self-paced, exactly. Because you're going to have kids that are going to be like 60-hour course. I can get through this in like 3 weeks, versus a whole semester. And there'll be kids that want to do that. So I will say I love that kind of option that they offer. And I haven't seen anything out there like it yet. So I'm still kind of looking, but for me, that was like one of the things that drew me to them as a possibility. And so also, again, thanks again, Phil, for joining us. And you put the helmet back on whenever you're ready. I get this image that you just walk around your house with this thing on, and Josh is in the background coming in.
All masks.
That's true. Yeah. You have to wear a mask. I mean, I wore my Darth Vader helmet to the grocery store today, so it's all good as well. Yeah. And this is also good. Amanda's also mentioning choice boards, which is talking about that student self-pacing, giving them opportunities to those things. So finding programs like Rex that allow them to kind of get that free self-paced, kind of idea where they can go through and try their own things. That's amazing. If you can do that. And if you have a teacher like Amanda, who's willing to kind of let kids grow in areas of where they're comfortable with, I think that's what we need out there. More of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, listening to students, listening to what they want, maybe survey the students in your schools and find out what kind of programs do they want to do, and, what would make them excited about learning. And I think you're going to find computer science is behind a lot of that.
It'd be very interesting. You never know. I mean, the buildings, I always say the buildings don't exist for the adults, right? These buildings exist for the kids. And so on that message, Phil, I thank you again. And yes, let's go out there. Let's ask the kids, what do they want? And then how do we get that to them in an efficient way that doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting? So I think this has been a good start. We're excited. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Rochelle. Thanks all of you that were joining us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you found us. Yeah. With that, we will sign off, and may the 4th be with you. Dun, 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 dun. I can't see anything, so I'm just going to hit end broadcast. Bye, everybody.